No? Got a lot of smoke. Sorry? Yeah. What do you reckon that is then? So, quick update on where we are with things. The little purple Mazda 2 that I got in, what did I get that in? 3 or 4 days ago? Already sold. Recommendation from someone. That's going in for its MOT tomorrow to put a fresh MOT on it. So it's going out the door as it is with those little dings in the door, but book for that was 3.8, something like that. I've sold it for 3.5, so allowed 300 off for the sort of dings in the door side of things. And where else are we with things? So the little Fabia is being stubborn. That's staying here. Not any interest in that. So that's been up for a little while now. The Micra's only been up for a couple of days. I've had a few messages on that, so it looks like that'll go okay. Still not got onto the Yaris. So from the 9-car flip, I've still got the Yaris left over. I've still got the Fabia left over. And I've still got the Honda left over. So we got 3 left. Only the Fabia and the Honda are actually ready to go. I've still got to get that clutch done on the Yaris. The Bravo I got the other day has sold already. It sold within 24 hours, and I really don't know why. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why this car would be that much more popular than others. Yes, it's super good looking. I will give it that. But I asked £2.5 for it, which is the top end of the market for these, for this age. And I had 2 people fighting it out over it. One wanted to gazump the other one and get a deposit put down before the other one picked it up. But I have ploughed a lot of money into this. Unfortunately, the way VAT works on used cars, this is something you need to be aware of if you do it, is the VAT man wants you to pay 20% on gross profit, not net profit. So you can't include any of the costs of fixing the car. You've got to do it on gross profit. So the trouble is, when you buy a car like this for £500, excuse the compressor, when you buy a car like this for £500, although you get a cheap deal on it, and I've sold it for £2,500, I've put a lot into it. I put new tyres on it, new discs and pads, cam belt kit, exhaust mount. I've done discs and pads all the way around now. Like I say, front tyres, cam belt, blah, blah, blah. On £2,500, I'm making about £800 profit, but I have to pay the profit on £2,000. So I've got to pay the VAT man £400 of that £800 in VAT, because they work it off the gross profit sale of a car. So trouble is, makes you a worse dealer, because at the end of the day, because you can't claim the cost of putting parts on it against the profit, you're inclined to put less parts into it, you know. So I actually think it's arse about face and makes things a lot worse for the consumer, because I think the dealers tend to put less into the cars because of that. So buying a cheap car and putting a load of parts into it is worse for you than buying a car, making slightly less margin on it, but not having to put any parts into it. Just the way it works, unfortunately. But there's no beating it. You've got to pay that back, man. So just crack on and do it. Right, the Dacia. Now, this is the big one today. As you can see, she is completely stripped. Shall we get you a torch a second? Bear me 1 second. Let's get a torch. This is another example of what we're talking about here. This was a cheap car, but I'm spending a lot of money fixing it now, and that's all stuff, you know. The gross profit will look high on it because I might get £3.5 on it, but bought it for like 1,100, probably 1,400 with fees. But the reality is, I'm going to be spending, so the gross profit will look like about £2,000, but in reality, the profit will probably be more like £1,000, £1,500 after we've done it. So what have we done? We have taken the head off, and the head gasket had gone on it. It wasn't out of time. It was the head gasket had gone on it. It was blowing all over the place, to be honest, although the head is level. We've checked that. The head's level. So the block is level. The head is now at the engine place across the road, Barham Engineering, for skimming. We'll put a new gasket on it. I didn't tackle this myself. I will admit that I helped and unbolted most of this stuff, but my mate Pete came along, who's a bit more experienced than me, and did a lot of it. I did have to get on with the Bravo and get that ready for its MOT, so that's another excuse for why I didn't get too hands-on with it myself. But yeah, so we're going to put a new gasket on it. Now, obviously, putting a new gasket on, we're also going to end up doing the cam belt, the water pump. We're going to do the thermostat, tensioner. So this is going to be coming out the door with new head gasket, new cam belt. It's going to be set to do a good number, 100,000 miles more. So the question is, why was it written off? Because it certainly wasn't for the damage to the bumper. I think someone's been cheeky here. I think someone's had the head gasket go. There were signs of steel seal or something similar in the coolant bottle. I think they had a go at fixing it with some steel seal, realised how much they were going to have to pay for a head gasket, and pushed it into a wall because the bumper just isn't that badly cracked. Let's see if I can just show you that a second in the boot. The bumper is not that bad. It has a very minor crack and a scrape on it. It looks very much like it's been pushed into a wall. I think someone's done a dodgy job on this. I think they have gone for an insurance claim, and you do hear this every now and then. People are driving cars into ditches and so forth, so they know they're about to have a big mechanical bill on to get away with it. Because obviously this was a Cat N, non-structural damage, but this front crash bar has not got a scratch on it. Rad, all of that. None of the plastics down here are damaged. They always break off normally. None of that's damaged. The bumper's only got minor cracking in it. All the headlights, all the clips on them are absolutely fine. So yeah, I reckon someone's had the insurance company over on this. Possibly. For insurance, for legal purposes, I'll say possibly. So this is the head gasket, and you can see it was blowing. So it's blowing here, blowing there. Yeah, blowing quite badly. Been run for a while like that, so there was a concern, but the block might have some warping on it, but it's okay. It looks okay anyway. We have tested it. We've tested it with a straight edge and a light, and Lee from the engine builders has come over and given it a little test, and he's happy enough to continue as is. Obviously, we'll put a thicker gasket in it. So that's where we are at the moment. Like I say, I mean, you saw some of the other flips and how easy they were, and the sort of profit margins we made on those. You know, a few people have said in the comments, quite rightly so, I should be warning people of the risks of buying from Copart and from BCA. I said before on Copart, don't buy non-runners unless you're very mechanically minded. You have the facilities, don't buy non-runners. So I'll say that again, don't buy non-runners from Copart. Is rarely something simple. And as regards BCA, you know, obviously we've got the Yaris outside that has the clutch that needs doing. And we've had to send back the Kia and the C1 with engine problems. So again, from BCA, buy the ones that have the mechanical reports on them if you aren't mechanically minded. Or, you know, if you don't want to get involved in doing too much work, go for the ones with the mechanical reports. It's not all roses. There are big jobs like this. But this is financially, it's worth doing it on this. Again, it will hit us a bit harder on the VAT side of things, but yeah, still worth doing this car. So anyway, let's crack on. Hopefully the Bravo gets through its MOT without needing any more work on it. And hopefully we get some takers on the nice little Honda Jazz soon. The Skoda Fabia, I'm not really surprised it's a bit slow. It's you know, it's a pretty bland car. They're not massively popular, and being locked down, there aren't a lot of people out buying at the moment. So I expect that one might take a while. But again, as I said in previous videos, if you'd like me to work out where we are profit-wise now, I can do. I can tell you how much we've made to date, because it might be that we got to a point where these cars really don't owe us anything anymore. Anyway, let's crack on. Tomorrow we are going to be on, what are we on tomorrow? Pass, actually. Oh yeah, whatever the Mazda 2 needs when that's sold. So we'll have to see what that was another customer recommendation, the Mazda 2. I did a little bit more to the MGB over the weekend. I fitted the other fiberglass door. It needs a little bit more tweaking. but we've got the fiberglass doors on both sides of the car now. So what I'm planning to do next is get the front wings on, get them lined up, trimmed to size, because nothing with these fiberglass stuff is fitting particularly nicely. It's all needing a lot of work. Yeah, if you, again, I think I've said previously, if you're doing MGB and you fancy doing a wide body with the fiberglass kits, be ready for a lot of fabrication. It's not bolt on. Right, I'm off home. It's my birthday today. I promised I'd get home early, but I haven't done at all. So I better get it cracking. So we've got the head back for the Dacia, all machined off. New gasket and new head bolts. Very reasonable price on that from the guys at Barham. They have charged me what, £132 including the VAT. I left the camshaft on it. I left the valves in it. They took the valves out. They took the camshaft off. They skimmed it. That includes the gasket. They bought the gasket and they bought the head bolts. So cracking deal on that. So just gonna get my mate Pete back in to get it back in, get it all installed, because I'm not quite confident enough to do that myself. I don't fancy mistiming it and munching it all up. So let's get cracking and get that fitted back in. No? Got a lot of smoke. Sorry? Yeah. What do you reckon that is then? Right, so today we've been working mostly on the Dacia. If you remember, we got it diagnosed as over the road as having a head gasket problem. I had them take it apart and have a look at it because I was short on time. They diagnosed it as a head gasket. Sent the head away over the road to my mate Lee, who so I had my mate Pete strip the engine out, take the head over to Lee, who skimmed the head for us, put a new gasket set in it. So like I said, I think Lee charged me 135 quid to skim the head, put a new gasket set in with new head bolts, and Pete's been in today and put it all back together again for me. So that is all ready to go. We're going to see what happens with that in a second. While Pete was doing that, I got the bumper done. So if you remember, the bumper was cracked. A little crack on this side, and then it had a big crack this side. Did my old standard thing, used the hot glue staples on the back of it to hold it together, then sort of worked to groove out with the sandpaper, filled it with filler, sanded it all back. So tomorrow I'm going to get the colour on this. Same old rules on this. I'm going to try and stay away from this top edge that joins to the other bodywork. I'm going to stay away from there because the paint's all pretty good up here. And then we're going to take the colour to here and then fade out thinner to here so that the old paint is to the old panel, not the new paint, because it never matches perfectly. And we'll do that on both sides. I've got a new grill on the way. The grill was cracked. Cost me £20, £25 for a new grille section for this. So we've got no cost on the bumper. That was going to cost me 350 quid to buy a bumper, but when it turned up and it's in the boot, I was able to save that, and the damage is minor, very minor. So this is where we get into the story with this car. So looking at the front of it, the crash bar is completely undamaged. No damage to it whatsoever. No damage to the headlights. Normally if they get broken tabs, the insurance companies don't want to do repairs because it's very expensive for brand new headlights. But both the headlights are completely undamaged. The crash bar is completely undamaged. The radiator is completely undamaged. Nothing on the front end of this car is damaged whatsoever. An insurance claim for a cat N on a car 2014 like this, it's worth about £5 normally. If it had a broken bumper, broken headlights, and maybe tweaked wings, yes, it would be write-off. But when it is just the bumper like this, it's never a write-off. If we go back to the bumper again, all the bumper had was a small crack here and small scuffs on it, like a very low speed impact. But if you remember, when the car came to us, there was no coolant in it, and it was full of what looked like some form of steel seal or rad weld in it. And you could see bits of the engine that had been moved about and played with. So I think what we've had here is, someone said this to me the first time. Remember, when the car came to us, it wouldn't start at all. When the first car first came to us, one of my friends said, I reckon it's an insurance scam. And I said, no one would fill the tank up with fuel. And I think I said it to you in one of the videos. So this is where I'm going to possibly be proved wrong. I said, no one's going to fill up the car with diesel just before they do an insurance scam on it. But I think now, like I say, eat my words, I think that's what's happened here. I think someone's had a head gasket go. They've tried to fix it by putting in some kind of rad weld or steel seal or something. Hasn't worked. They've then been quoted, obviously, a wedge through a garage, probably $1,000 or to do a head gasket on the car, or they've been told that there's going to be other problems, blah blah blah, or because the additive didn't work, that the blocks warped or something. They may well have been told those kind of things. And I think they've intentionally pushed it into a wall or something, because the impact's so low. And then they've gone and claimed insurance. Oh, I've had a bang and now the car won't start. And the assessors these days, no disrespect to the assessors write cars off for anything now. Now, obviously, for legal reasons, I'm going to say that I can't positively say that, but my feeling is that is what has happened, because the rest of the car is undamaged. That bumper was so lightly damaged, doesn't make any sense. So, we have put the head back together, and now it's time. Let's give it a go. Let's see how she sounds. Battery might be a bit low, so she may take a little while to turn over, because we've been playing around with it all the time. Let's just see where the keyhole is. It's there. All right, okay. Let's have a little listen then. I hear the fuel pump going. Let's give it a go. And she's running. And she's running really well. Running like an absolute sewing machine. Obviously, we put in a brand new water pump, cam belt tensioner, cam belt, thermostat we put in as well. We used all new head bolts, new head gasket. We had the head skimmed. And we've got fresh coolant in her. She is running really, really well. So the next thing for this is I need to take it for a drive. Or, well, first of all, I'll take it for a drive round the industrial estate, but I need to let it sit for a long while, get up to temperature, and see if we have any overheating problems at all. But she's running. So, all in, to get her running, I think the diagnosis over the road, they only charged me, bless them, they only charged me about an hour and a half, so I think that was about, what did they charge me for that? About £60 plus VAT, something like that. So let's say that's 80 quid, and then, like I say, Lee charged me, what, 130 including the VAT? So we'll call that 150. So let's say 230 quid. Pete charged me 200 quid to strip it and put it back in again. So where are they? Say 250. Let's say get myself lost here. 180 quid plus a 200. So say 380 quid. I had to buy a glow plug, 22 glow plugs. So it's about £420. I think we're in a region of about £420, say £450 to get it back together. The car cost me £900. With the fees and delivery, I think it was around about 1,100. It might have been cheaper than 900. Then I think it was about 1,100. I think we're in the region of about, I don't know. I'm getting a bit lost with maths now. I think we're in the region of about £1,500-1,600 into this now. So £1,500-1,600 into it. We still need to do an oil and filter change on it. I still need to get a locking wheel nut for it. I need to get the radio code for it and give it a really good clean. So I think next part of the video might be giving it a really good clean. I can do that while it's running, and we'll see if it gets up to temp. But these are about £5,000 with this mileage, this spec on them, non-cat. Now obviously this isn't a crash damage car, even though it's a cat car, it's not really crash damage, because again I think someone's pulled a scam here. Again, remember this was listed as non-runner, but I missed it on the blooming listing. And I probably wouldn't have bought it, but now actually in hindsight, for what we've had done, like I say, if it does run well without any problems, it's been a good buy, because I think I will put this out the door at 3795. I think I'm going to ask 373695 for this. What's the mileage on it again? I think it's only 60,000 miles on it. Yeah, it's 60 odd thousand miles on it. It's the top spec. We've got cruise control, Bluetooth, front and rear electric windows, obviously remote central locking alloys, air conditioning. It's a really good spec. It'll be a great family run around car for someone. With what we've done on this, if it proves to be running as it should, it'll go on to do a couple 100,000 miles this now. I mean, we've done everything you're likely to do on this. Why the head gasket went in the first place, I don't know. The water pump was really quite graunchy on it that we took off. I wonder if someone did ignore the poor water pump and carried on running it anyway and then tried to steel seal, because they're not renowned for this. I've not come across this, and other guys around here haven't come across it. So anyway, so let's get on. I'm going to come in tomorrow, being Saturday. We're going to get this bumper painted so that can go back on the car. And we are going to, then we're going to get her cleaned up, give her a really good clean and a buff up. And let's see what we've got at the end of that. And like I say, while we're doing that, we'll keep it running and see how the temp works out. So we've got the filler primer on the Dacia bumper, where we repaired the crack, and where there are a couple of other scratches. So filler primered that all up. Plan is, as I said, probably go to colour to about here, then lacquer, and then fade out thinner there. Just realised missed that spot there. Let's get some filler on that. Primer on that. Some of you keener-eyed people and people that watched the earlier videos will notice the iGo's still here with the interior stripped out. Just to confirm, this is not me leaving the customer in the lurch and doing other stuff. I messaged the customer, let them know that the carpets, it's the sound deadening underneath, is not fully dried out yet. I have tried putting heat lamps on it and all sorts, but because the workshop isn't particularly warm, it's taken a while to dry out. I said, do you want me to put it back together now so you can get the car back? He said, well, it's locked down. We can't do driving lessons, that kind of thing. And there's a couple of other bits I'd like you to have a look at while you're there, so hang on to it. So key thing in this industry is communication. And from the other side of the other side, when I previously had people work on my cars, there's a big gap in there in terms of communication. People will just take the car and they won't let you know what's going on with it. I use Facebook Messenger, I use text messages, and obviously the phone to keep people informed at all the steps all the way through, so they know what the score is. Because nothing worse, even if you've got no news, just let them know you've got no news, because keeping people waiting or uninformed does not make for good customer service. So always keep them in touch, and if things are going wrong, let them know things are going wrong. Be honest about it, and you won't have any worries. You won't have people chasing you constantly. You won't have angry phone calls. So if you do get into this game, like I say, talk to people, stay in touch with them, communicate with them, be honest with them, and you should be short on problems. So I've now used a red primer over those grey primer areas, because otherwise, when it comes to putting the metallic red top coat on, it's going to need a lot of coats to cover up that grey. So putting a base coat of this sort of pinky red primer down is going to make coverage with the metallic a lot easier. I'm going to have to do less coats, which means I'm not going to have to do it as heavy, which means I'm not likely to get a different metallic finish to the factory. So just wait for that to go off, and then we'll dust coat on our first red. So we put a first coat of colour on, which is the grab coat, if you remember. So we've got the primer underneath, and because we've not sanded the primer when dry, ready to take this colour on, which we'd do if we're doing a full-blown paint job, we want the fresh colour to take to that primer. If we lay it on really thick now, it'll flake straight off again. So we just lightly dust it, just to give a tacky coat that then the wetter coats will stick to. So we're not looking to cover up all of that primer right now. We're looking just to put a dust coat on, just to give it a grab coat, to then put the additional colours, layers of colour on. So we've waited 10 minutes for that tack coat to go off, and we're now going to put a heavier coat of colour on. You can see that I've got my cans in some warm water down here because it is a bit cold today, and that will really help you with the flow of the paint. So like I say, we'll give this now a wetter coat, and now we are looking to cover more of the primer, but we've got to bear in mind we want to keep this metallic flake the same as the factory one. If we lay it too heavy, it will flatten down. If we lay it too light, it will sit up and be very reflective. So it's about hitting a balance somewhere in the middle. As I said, we're not going to go right to the edges because then we will be putting new paint next to the old paint, and it will be more obvious if we don't get that match. Right, so now we are on to the third coat of colour. Now we're looking to try and colour match. We're trying to look to get a good flow on it and really good coverage. Depending on how this coat goes, it might be the last coat of colour. Obviously it's flat, being as this is a two-stage paint, we've got the metallic underneath, then we've got the lacquer. Obviously at the moment it looks mottled, but the colour match is looking good. And you can see this is where we did the repair on the bumper, the crack. You see you can't see it at all, and on the other side there was a small crack here, wasn't there? And maybe a tiny little nick up there you can see, just about see, but overall looking good. So like I say, now we're going to get some colour coverage on it. We're going to go to about here, about this sort of line here with the colour, and then we're going to probably lacquer over the whole panel, to be fair. It's going to be easier than fade out thinning, because at the end of the day our colour's going to about here anyway, so we might as well just lacquer the whole panel, and then we don't have to worry about any scar marks when it comes to polishing it out. So yeah, so we're going to go for the last coat of the colour now. I'll shine a light over it as I go to make sure that I'm seeing how reflective the metallic is compared to some factory areas, to ensure that we get as good a match as we can. Leaving 10 minutes between each coat, at least 10 minutes between each coat, 10 to 15 minutes, because the weather is cold. We don't want to trap any moisture behind the paint or any solvents behind the paint that will then cause it to pop later on and bubble up and separate. We want to make sure that all the fillers and all the coats underneath, all the solvents have managed to evaporate from behind. When you start to get crazing and cracking, it's where you basically have trapped the solvents behind each other by going too quickly, too wet, too heavy. Too early on. So take our time. Again, when the weather's like this, take our time. When it's blazing hot, not very often here in the UK, is it? But when it's blazing hot, you want to make sure you do a bit quicker then. Hello. So we put on what I think is going to be my last wet coat before lacquer, but we'll let this go off now. Just have a quick double check of it before we put the lacquer on and see how we're doing. Looking promising, but always worth waiting a little bit just to see if any reactions come through, or if you've check out any unevenness you've got with your metallics. So next up is the lacquer coat, the clear coat. So what we need to do is, again, we want to do a grab coat first. We don't want to just go lagging the lacquer on over the top of this red. We want the two to chemically bond to each other. And because we're going to want to do wet coats of lacquer towards the end to really get that shine up, we want to make sure we've got a grippy surface underneath. So what I will do first is dust the lacquer over the top of the bumper and give that grab coat. I will leave it for about 10 minutes. And then I will do the flow coats on top, probably about 3 flow coats of lacquer. Obviously, key thing with the lacquer is, again, leave 10-15 minutes between coats when it's a bit colder like this. Make sure that everything evaporates out of it so I don't get clouding in the lacquer. And also not lay it on too thick in one go so that I start to get runs, especially where the bumper's obviously sloping downwards here. If you lay it on thick up here, it's going to cause runs down here. So we've got to take our time with it. You need to find something else to do with yourself between coats, otherwise there's always a temptation to come back, look and give it another little blast over that corner and so forth. Trust me, I've caught myself out so many times rushing paint and fiddling around with it and not leaving it well enough alone. So what I tend to do is find myself another job to do while you're doing it. Set yourself a little timer for sort of say 12 minutes maybe in between the coats, and go. Now obviously if you had to leave this now, for example, if I had to leave it and go off and do something and come back tomorrow, I would need to scuff up the surface again before I put the lacquer on. I can only get away with putting the lacquer on now without scuffing up the surface because I'm doing what's called basically wet on wet. I'm putting the lacquer coat on while this base coat's still a bit damp, but obviously, like I say, I'm letting it evaporate off, the solvents evaporate out of it. Before I put that lacquer on, I'm going to put that grip coat on first. So I mean, painters tell me you can do wet on wet with the 2K, where you put down the colour and then you put the lacquer on heavy straight away. I don't know if that's just them trying to basically get a job done faster or not, because I've seen plenty of those jobs peel straight off later on. So I'd rather wait a little while. But colour match is looking good, because bear in mind we've not painted up here, and we have down here. I'm sort of dusting into this area here, and then we're going to lacquer over the top. Again, you know, we want to get as good a finish as we possibly can, but obviously to have this bumper professionally painted is going to put like another 250 to 300 pounds on the car. They'll do the whole panel in one go. I think if I can get the kind of finish I can normally get with a rattle can on and sell this car at sub £4,000 with a good quality paint job on the front there from the rattle can, I think people would rather have a cheap car, to be honest. You know, this should be a case, touch wood, famous last words, of unless you get up incredibly close up, you're not really going to. I'm going to probably have slightly more orange peel than factory, depending on how much I sand it afterwards. But again, most people are not going to really notice that difference. Okay, so sometimes even with the best prep, things don't go your way. The roof has leaked. Got two big drips, you can see in the paint here. Drips of water. So that's screwed up that top coat of lacquer. I'm going to have to wait for this to dry and see where we are. I'm going to have to flat that back. If it's just in the lacquer, I might be able to re-lacquer, but if it's disturbed the lower colour paint colour level, I'll have to repaint colour on all this. Plus it turns out that it's a little bit too cold today and everything is not clearing as quickly as I'd want it to. We've still got a lot of mistiness within the lacquer in that heavy top coat. Got the heat lamp on it on the worst areas. When this happens, you just got to walk away, let it all settle down. I'm going to leave this 24 hours now. I'll come back to it and see where we are. If I have to repaint it, I have to repaint it. At least all the body working's done. I can scuff it up and give it another shot. Hopefully I can save it. Maybe I'll just need to redo some areas. But again, this is what happens when you're using rattle cans in the cold like it is. I probably should have tried to get the room warmer beforehand, and probably should have done lighter coats and then flattered it back to get the shine rather than try and do it straight out the can. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait on this and see how it comes out. Bummer. It's nice to get one shot and get it on the car, but needs more work. I've had another car turn up, so we'll take a look at that. And what I think I'll do for the rest of the day is get that prepped and up for sale, so at least I can keep moving forward with something. That's going to be it for today's video, because it's getting a little bit long, and being in Devon, my uploads take blooming forever. So next video, let's find out, can I save the paint on the bumper? I've got the new arrival just come in to show you. Hopefully if we can sort the bumper, we'll get it on this Logan and we'll go out for the first drive. Will she overheat? That's the question. We'll find out on that front. The rally, we're going to get the 106 rally and get the head off the 106 rally, get that and get it repaired. And will I have sold anything between this video and the next video you see? So the Bravo and the Mazda 2 have now gone. They're with their new owners. So yeah, hit that subscribe button please guys. I really would appreciate if you can hit that subscribe button, because I'm only about 100 subscribers off monetization. which would be a massive thing for me, and not massive as in financial, because obviously I don't have enough followers for financial, but it could be the beginnings of something. I really do appreciate you guys watching the videos. I read all your comments, guys. If you notice, if you look, I read all your comments. I reply to all your comments. Your feedback means a lot to me. What I can do to improve the channel, what you want to see. The fact that people are enjoying these videos means a lot to me as well. So I really appreciate you, those of you that have made a comment and said you're enjoying the videos, because I know how much I enjoy other people's videos when I do get a few minutes to sit down with a coffee. I still love watching people's car videos when they're doing stuff. So the fact that the people out there are enjoying watching what I'm doing means a lot. So massive thanks to all of you that have already subscribed. Massive thanks to all of you that have commented. If you haven't subscribed yet and you are enjoying this content, please do hit that subscribe button. It will make a lot of difference to me and the projects that I can be doing going forwards. Thanks a lot. See you again soon.